Oh yeah. I'm just.
Here we go. And away we go. Welcome to another episode of Exposure Runs the podcast. This one is going to be very entertaining. When you have your own podcast, you can bring up who you want. Every last one of them won't always be sports related, although there is some sportsness there will be an element to that. I'd like to welcome one of my youngest brothers to the show, world acclaimed and a national comedian, Moses the Comic.
Did you just call me a comedian?
Comedian.
Oh.
Comedian?
Not Ann.
Not Ann.
N.
No.
Yeah. N.
Oh, comedian.
Yes.
Okay, my bad.
Okay.
Moses the Comic, my brother Musa Suleiman. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this whole experience has been something. From the drive up and the outside, whatever this production is, outside, it's definitely, I literally pulled up, it looked like a crack house outside. I'm not going to lie to you. We were in a neighborhood and it threw me off. It was a very nice neighborhood. The houses were nice. And then it was like Jeepers Creepers when you pulled in. I literally called him. I said, is this barn? And then he's like, I'm going to come to the door. And he did. And we walked in, and then we walked into another room, and you guys can't see that, but there's a lot of equipment back here, and it's all professional, and it's ran into like a cigarette lighter back there. I don't know what's going on through that back wall. There's a gentleman there. He has on a bucket hat, and but we are here, and I'm happy to be here.
And I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you.
How was first of all, how was the event that you went to earlier?
It was the Black Muslim Psychology Conference.
Okay.
The Black Muslim Psychology Conference, shout out to them. Mm-hmm. I was one of the speakers, keynote, if you will.
Keynote?
If you will.
If I will.
If you will.
I shall.
I won't. And one of the things, it was a very nice event, though. It was very well attended. My session was very well attended. And
are you surprised by that?
I'm going to humbly say no. I am not surprised by it because I do know that I am Moses the Comic and I'm a big deal in some circles.
In some circles. When will you get to all circles?
Allah Ilam, as they say. Only Allah knows. Am I allowed to mention God on this platform?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I don't know if this is a religious platform or not. He's offered me water, but I'm sure there's other beverages available.
No, actually, there's not.
Oh, okay.
It's just these.
Okay.
Yeah, we try to keep it. Yeah.
I was going to ask for a spritzer.
No, we don't have those.
Okay.
Yeah, no. All right. So you're the youngest of Ayub and Nisa Suleiman of my siblings. We have Fatin.
Okay.
We have me. We have Suara.
Mm-hmm.
We have Tasneem. We have Shahada. And then we have you. And then, of course, we have Yasin and Yusuf.
Of course. I like to say that my mother, she kept trying until she got it right. Because if you notice, there was never another after me with my mother. So she had Fatin, and he was okay. And then Mustafa came, and she knew she couldn't end there. So she kept trying, and then a bunch of girls came, and they were what they were. And then when I came, I like to think she said, this one right here, this one is it.
That you were the one.
I was the one.
You're technically the him of our family.
I'm Neo, if you will.
Oh.
I'm Neo. Oh. I'll give you Morpheus.
Okay.
I'll give you Morpheus.
But you are
I'm Neo. I'm definitely Neo. I'm Mr. Anderson. I am the one.
Okay.
Humbly
speaking?
Humbly.
Okay. So tell us, you are known as an Islamic comedian, correct? Or just a comedian?
This is so much ambiguity about those terms. That's actually a whole hot button topic about, Muslim comic and that whole thing. I look at myself first and foremost just as a Muslim, not necessarily a designation of my craft that I'm a Muslim comic. I'm a comedian.
Okay.
I'm Muslim.
Okay.
I'm black.
Okay.
So it's not like, I'm a black Muslim comic. So I am a comedian. But the same set that I'll do at a Muslim comedy show is the same set I'll do and have done at Punchline comedy clubs. And, so.
So my next question, really, I guess you just answered, is like, what is the difference between an Islamic comedian and a traditional comedian, if there is one?
I guess in those instances you could, you have like, I guess, a Christian comic. Maybe he's doing where the content maybe is targeted specifically to those sect of people. So you can do, of course I have material that is better interpreted in Muslim crowds and people resonate with Muslim crowds. But then just like Russell Peters, shout out to Russell Peters, one of my inspirations in comedy. He's a comedian that, he brings the mainstream into his culture. Okay. Joe Coy is another one, a famous comic that Joe Coy is a great comic of just bringing people into his culture and his background and customs and things, but doing it in a way in which makes it relatable. So I guess with Muslim comics, if you will, people are referring to just doing material that they assume only Muslims are going to get. Right.
Which is my next question, is that, do you find it difficult sometimes when you are in those different circles or those different types of shows that you have to scale back some of your content when your target audience or your audience in specific is Muslims?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was just telling at this conference I was at that I've been in shows and I'll teach non-Muslims how to takbir. They have no idea. There's global domination. When you leave my show, you will be a Muslim. And we're there and we're like, takbir. They're like, what do we say? I say, Allahu Akbar. They'll go right through it. So I don't, my thing is like, we're just people. You mean, so the material is just talking about family and relationships and stuff that's just relatable, and are there terms in which that even when I am in those regular rooms that the takbir terms where I know I got to add a few more lines to do some more explanation of it, where I could be in a Muslim room and I can hit it.
You already know.
Yeah,
I mean they already know. Rather.
They gonna know.
So when you're doing most of your content or some of your content in front of a lot of Muslims, are you changing up some of that content to be, when you spoke about being relatable? Like I know we just talked about this when you were kind of using the word nigga in the set that you were doing, and somebody
crushed it. 25 minutes of straight fire. You ask anybody about this past weekend in Philadelphia, it's 25 minutes of straight fire improv.
Material that you just kind of spit
off the top of the dome, muffin cap blown, room was crazy, but I used the N-word. Like, if you're going to talk about it, let's talk about it. I did use the N-word and some people were offended by it.
Right. So like, again, so since you brought that up, like how does that
we're talking about nigga, not noodles. Can I say that on this platform?
You can. Okay. Yeah. When you had that situation and what happened, when you are, do you find yourself being apprehensive at the next show, or when you get wind of that how do you feel about that when that stuff comes up?
I'm not above reproach. I am a person that I do feel like, and I just was explaining this earlier too, the power of the platform, we have to be, even of this platform,
I agree.
The power of your platform and of the microphone, this is a very powerful tool. And so in using that, we can't be displaced from the responsibility of it. So after that event, it was something when it was brought to my attention, because, and we explained this in the set, where, the word came out because culturally, especially in Philadelphia, it's just so ingrained into how we communicate.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so sometimes, because some people said to me, they didn't even hear me say it because it's just regular conversation.
It's
somebody was like, we use that in our khutbas at Juma. You hear the imam use the word.
Right.
But I've never heard any imam use that, by the way. Shameless plug. All the imams be texting me, I ain't never say it. So after that, when people were telling me that, it was like, I apologized because there were kids in the room, and someone asked me, like, would you feel aware of your children when in the room? And I genuinely said, no, not for that word. And I'm not saying that some people may look at that and think that's wrong. But I think, again, it's a bigger conversation of the context of the word and how and the intentionality behind it. And so even in some of my reproach, it was really just explaining to people what the intention was, because I think that that's very important. And so I didn't feel as if that I owed anyone an explanation or an apology, but the people in which that the responsibility of my platform and understanding that and curating spaces and events for that, I am obligated to make sure that when people leave there, that they had a great experience. Because as a businessman, in anything in life what you're doing, there's a difference between customer service and customer experience.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And for me and my shows, anything I'm curating, I want the customer to leave and have it's great that somebody, they smiled at you and they were nice to you. That was nice. But like the experience is the only thing that'll bring repeat business.
Right.
And so when I felt as if that some people left that show and didn't have a great experience, I did feel obligated to make it right.
You kind of talked about, you didn't feel like, you owed an apology and all of that. When that type of stuff comes up, like for me, like, I do a lot of stuff kind of unapologetically. And when people are we're very open. I
earn that term. I own that term, by the way. Unapologetically Muslim.
Yeah. You do.
Trademark.
Well, you own that phrase. You don't own the word apologetically.
I'll sue you.
Okay. We have two people specifically that that I know for a fact watches the entire podcast that we've done, and they've even gone so far as giving me feedback on a lot of stuff. So when people are giving you that feedback, like how often do you take that feedback and just kind of pour it into your next set, or is it one of those things, not necessarily in one ear and out the other, but how much do you take it in and use it?
That's a great question, actually, because sometimes it manifests in ways that, like when I'm even doing improv, for example, I was telling someone that's one of the dangers of improv, because like our minds move so fast. Shout out to the comedians. I was just talking about Robin Williams, Azim, comedians that, rapid fire comics where your mind can move so fast. And so I've trained my mind as well. I do a lot of crowd work, and my mind moves so fast that there are times where I don't even know I watch my own shows back, because sometimes I don't know what I've said. And then sometimes there are those issues where I might say something that just was osmosis that might have came past. It's like, I ain't want to tell nobody I was pregnant. I'm like, congratulations. It might just have come out. You know what I mean? So there are times where I think that there's that responsibility as well, but just I might just be going so fast that stuff, it might have just been something on my mind, and then it just comes down because I'm just pulling from stuff and finding what's working. And there are times, it's interesting, this conference that I did today, the last time I did this conference, they had it some years back, and it was a situation where I had done a bit, and that was a great example of a time where it showed me just the power of the microphone, but how just the uncertainty of an audience. You know what I mean? Because an audience can be with you and then they can be against you. And that first 10, 15 minutes, it was Def Comedy Jam in there. I had them, it was where it was at this same conference. And I had done a joke that I've since retired. And I'm not above reproach, but I did a joke. But sometimes it took, again, going through it to understand the sensitivities behind it, where, you know what I mean? And then sometimes it might just be a joke, like the joke I used to tell about with the credit and everything in the beginning. Stuff that, like, I might only tell that joke if you were in the room. Right. Because it's going to hit more. Right. So I did this joke, and long story short, the woman had gotten offended by it, and and so she starts like crying at the table, you know what I mean? And I'm like, first of all, I'm like 5 minutes past that joke, right? And she started crying at the table, so it's like getting abnormally loud, where she's one of them John. So I gotta be like, you good, sweetie bumpkins, one of them, and she's like, of course it's the girlfriend, always the bag holder, that's like, no, you offended her. She went in, you know what I mean, to take up for her, and I was like, oh, what happened, type thing, because I'm way past.
So that. You don't even know what offended her.
My mind moves so fast. I'm 5-6 bits in, and then she gets up dramatically, and I'm talking about it was like time stopped. The chair slow motion fell. It was a series of unfortunate events this night, and so she left out the room, and then there was a guy in the back of the room, and I'm like, oh man, was that offensive? I'm like, the table, I just did the joke, going back to the joke. I'm like, was y'all offended at that? And then there's a hush in the room now. The same people that had just been, they was like, yeah.
It was a little bit?
Yeah, it was like, a little pin drop in there. And I'm like, okay, well, I understand it, this, that, and third. But then there was a gentleman in the room, he stood up and he's like, yeah, he's like, you're disrespecting the black families and this, that, and the third, or whatever.
Was he black?
He was a black man. But it was interesting because I did the ultimate no. And I was too far in my career to understand, is like any comic out there watching, any stage person, you never give up your microphone. You don't ever give up your microphone, not unless you have total control of the situation.
Right. And you gave it to him.
Because because I had misread the whole vibe. Okay. You know what I mean? And the people had, because they thought it was a bit. Because he stands up and he's just like, you disrespectful. And I'm like, you think you can do better? Type thing. Come up here. And I'm like, make some noise for him type thing. That was my first mistake. And he came up there and he got the microphone and he gave me a tongue lashing. Yes, he did. He gave me a whole school, you're disrespectful, and he gave me a khutbah, if you will.
Oh, old guy?
He wasn't old, but he gave me a little khutbah, and it was a whole moment. It was a pin drop in the room, and I had to bring some levity as he walked off stage. I said, Buzz Killington, table for one. He's here. And after that, it was like I had to address it, but it was so dynamic because what happened was, and I'm going through a similar situation now, but what happened was after that happened, and I was hosting, so we just went along with the program. I'm still being paid, and he came to me at the end and apologized. Right, the thing was all over. He's like, man, I'm sorry, man. I was feeling it. He had his moment.
Right.
But I said it's disingenuous because I said you did that publicly, but your apology was private. So my whole thing is, and again, that's important. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the accusation of a thing is worse than the thing. So, I don't remember where I was going with that, but just how audiences in general is like, comedy is just one of them things that's so subjective. And as you just really kind of learned, that was one of the questions at the thing. How do you tailor material for particular crowds?
That's actually what was going to be.
You know what I mean? And it's just, Richard Pryor, I used this quote. I said, Richard Pryor, he used to say, comedy is tragedy viewed from across the street. Comedy is tragedy viewed from across the street. We all love to look at a train wreck. We love to look at something in the safe space. And they asked him, why do white people support you so much? If you go back and look at that y'all got up on Richard Pryor way later in his career. Early on, the live from Sunset Strip and all that stuff is white people in the crowds. And they asked him, why do white people support 90% of your crowds is white? He said, because my comedy is safari for them. White people love to go on safari. They love to get in a protected vehicle and then they look at the lions and the tigers and the bears.
And the monkeys.
The monkeys. And so, he gets up there and he used comedy as that vehicle to talk about my experiences. I was cracked out and set myself on fire. All his stories.
And they just
these N-words. We love these N-words.
Right.
And so, I think it's really figuring out that perspective is like, we're on both sides of the street. That's how I look at comedy. Okay. We're on both sides of the street. You see a 6, I see a 9. We're both right, but we got different perspective. Now I'm on stage trying to get you to see my 6, or you trying to get me to see your 9, but it's a one-way conversation. So I know when I'm on stage, I'm having a one-way conversation with the audience. Now, unless you talking to the audience and doing crowd work, but typically it's you. The only reaction you getting is laughter, boos, or silence. But you chasing laughs. So once you start to figure out I watch comedy different now because once you start to figure out, like, you'll do this as you build this podcast, you'll watch podcasts different. You probably do now.
I do.
It's like, they did. That's the ZX34 they got. Look at that. He started knowing the terms because he uplayed Google and he think he decent. He got his little notes over here. Let's keep going because I want the people to know I'm proud of this man.
I appreciate that. You said something that's going to eventually lead me into our platform, which is sports related. But you said you watch yourself, and whether you know or not, in sports, teams, they watch film of themselves to kind of look at their mistakes and see how they can run a play better. Do you watch your comedy back in that regard, or are you watching for like where you may have offended somebody? Like, what are you specifically looking at when you're watching your comedy back?
I only watch for the nuance of me. When I watched the setback, I was watching a clip here of the stuff. I hate to hear my voice back, but when I watch those clips back, I'm paying attention to the nuance of the bits. You know what I mean? It's certain little mannerisms. There's certain little taglines that I might say. There's certain things that I'm saying on stage. People won't believe that, but there's certain things I might say on stage that's just for me. You know what I mean? Because later it's like, how am I going to string that? Where it's stuff that might go over a person's head because it's not curated in a space like that.
And when you do that specifically, you saying just for me, or you kind of string that, do you find stuff like, you know what, I should have either expanded more on that?
Absolutely.
Or do I, I can write that down.
But I'm trying bits. I'm fleshing things out.
Right.
Like this show I just did. It was, just stuff that I just had, just names of things I had wrote.
Right.
Now, it's all stuff that I've never done this material before. So the way like Richard Pryor would write his jokes is he would just write the punchline. For example, he might just write the word, that one word that's going to make it funny, right? Which was the destination. He would say that's the destination. But it's a million different ways that you can take to get there. Like right now, even to get here, the GPS, there might have been 4 or 5 different ways I could have taken to get to this same building, right? So the building is the punchline. That's the joke. The journey becomes the crowd I'm in front of. The journey becomes, I don't know what I'm going to get from a person. I might already know that I'm a lead a person to a punchline about marriage or relationships, but I got to get there first. So how long you been this your lady? I might have to take a million different ways until I draw him just to hit him with something to hit the crowd with something. Where now from your perspective, it's all off the top of my dome. But which it is, but it's calculated. It's not like people who you study your craft. You're not just putting a microphone up, and there's a lot that goes into, just all jokes aside, I mean, it's funny, but it's a lot that goes into the pre-production of turning this microphone on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think sometimes as consumers, we be displaced from that part of it. The innovation is always nice. People see my job and what I can do, and I've had a great, fabulous career. And, but that's saying innovation is rewarded, but execution is worshipped. The innovation is not enough. The creativity ain't enough. That's just the only thing that separates those who are successful from those that could have been successful is the execution. And that's all that pre-production that goes into, going to Kinko's and getting these nice, lovely signs. I want you to get a clip for right there. That bothers me. Don't you ever droop that sign again.
We're working on that.
I understand. It's a work in progress. And y'all hit that cash app because we got to support these black businesses and podcasts.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But you are speaking something very near and dear, because you're right, the execution and the production and all of that. Like, so even with this and this whole realm and this element that I'm in and I've done, is like a lot of times, even when I did it with CJ and then I started doing with Bo.
Keep It Moving was ahead of its time. Can we say that on wax?
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was.
The consistency is the only thing.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, because that was $1 million worth of game.
Yeah.
Before $1 million worth of game.
It was the Jesus Amaro. Shout out to them guys also. But yeah, I wish I would have stayed with it. But my point to that is, a lot of times for me, I kind of just start stuff, and I never kind of see it through. And it's like one of them things for me where it's like I never feel like people are really interested. And what I realized is a lot of times I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it to the satisfaction of for other people. And now for this particularly, I'm actually doing this for me. Like you said, like when you're on stage, you do that for you. I'm doing this for me. Yeah, we have a platform. Yeah, the people are really loving it. Yeah, I've done some things for your nephew, for my son, and other peers of his. But like this part of it, I'm actually doing for me. Like I'm really enjoying it.
Does this bring you joy?
I'm very much enjoying it.
That was one of the questions at this. Shout out to the Black Muslim Psychology Conference. That's what brought me down here. I spoke at this psychology conference, and one of the questions was, that's rarely asked to us as men and black men, but they said, what brings you joy? And that's a heavy question.
It is a heavy question.
When you talk about joy, and words are so powerful, words are very, very powerful. And even in Islam, words are so powerful. One of my favorite ayats in Quran is repeated twice. It says, verily with difficulty comes ease, verily with hardship comes ease. But Allah is so specific about the word with. Right? It doesn't say verily before difficulty or verily after difficulty comes ease. He's saying you're going to go through some hard stuff, right, and I'm promising you some ease at the end, but he's saying I'm going to be there with you too. Right? So the words, I think, are just so powerful, and like how we use them and how we frame the narratives around. I don't even know what I was saying. There's no AC in here. That's another thing I want to say, that we really need to support these podcasts, because the first thing that they need is some 5,000 BTUs coming from this window here. It's very warm in here.
Well, you have on a sheepskin jacket with jean-like material.
I understand.
You have on a 1958. Here we go.
Let them,
that 70s
let them have it.
That 70s show. Please. And then you also wearing a fedora. That probably is lined with some type of
sheepskin fur.
Yeah.
Lamb's wool, if you will.
If I will.
And I won't.
Okay. All right. Anyway, back to my questions. When did you get into comedy, and when did you realize that this was like your thing? You know what? Wait, let me take that back, because I don't want to call it a thing.
Okay.
I don't want to call it a thing.
Okay.
Because as much as, in all seriousness, as much as you have always told me and just said that you are proud of me, I'm very proud of you.
You got a chance to see me in Chicago, in this very city. I feel like that was the year that I made him a believer, that in my craft.
That's not true.
Because he came, okay, before then, first of all, he's A1 Day One. Let me say that. If you go back on my first show, he's laughing the loudest in there. But I feel like that event, and that was in 2021 when I curated the whole entertainment for the MassCon convention. For those of you who don't know, 10,000 strong in the room. But I also do that. Let My People Laugh Productions. I produce and curate events. I don't just perform on them. I am a producer. I don't even like they get mad that I call myself Moses the comic. I'm Moses the creative. Okay, because I do a lot more than just comedy.
Okay.
But I curated that event, and $1 million production. That was $1 million stage. That whole production, they spent $1 million just on that stage. You step on that stage and it's like the American Idol. That thing is serious.
Yeah.
And he was backstage. He got a chance to see that. I said, my brother's proud of me. He's seeing how I'm being. He had his little badge and I had him plugged him in with his security. Listen, I've been supporting you too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. When you started comedian, when did you become like? When did you know that this was it?
Shout out to Nadj. I got to shout out to Nadj.
Okay.
I told that story earlier. Shout out to Nadj. She was ahead of her time. There was a female Muslim comic in Philadelphia named Lady Smith. Okay, Najwa. She was a pioneer. Okay, before pioneers. And at my 25th birthday party. My 25th birthday party that we had like a karaoke jam, if you will. And she was telling me she was going to be doing comedy in a couple of weeks. She was going down to the Laugh House. And I said, man, I was so motivated by that. Like, me and Muslim sister. And at that time, it was unprecedented. I've been doing this almost 15 years.
Right.
That was unprecedented. And we made a pact that night. And I told this story earlier. I'm where I am. Obviously, I did the work, but I'm where I am that first push because of a Black Muslim woman. Because her fearlessness. I was so motivated and inspired that she told me she was going to an open mic at the comedy club, and y'all had always my whole life told me you need to do
you need to do that. Yeah.
And we stepped into the hallway at my birthday party, my 25th birthday party. We stepped into the hallway, and she said I'll do it if you do it. And that became our mantra. I'll do it if you do it. And we said we're gonna sign up, and we spent the next couple of weeks writing our little material, and it just was again one of those type of things that we plan. But God is the best of planners, because we got there and we had gotten there late or something, and we couldn't get in. And I was like, shout out to Fatin, because my brother Fatin, he showed up, and they recognized him at the door. And shout out to Kendrick the Family Soul. And he was like, that's his claim to fame. Like, I use the K card.
The K card. That's the family thing.
Family thing is the K card, to get us in the door. And they let me and Nadj in. And when they went to sign up, he wrote on there Moses the Comic. Because I hadn't even, I was just going, I'm just like Musa Suleiman. I don't know what I'm going. And it was a show called Funny Money. It was Funny Money Wednesday. Shout out to the late, great Sugar Bear, D. Holland.
Yes.
One of the funniest comedians from, I don't know, I think he, we claimed him in Philly, but I think he came from Carolina or something. But Sugar Bear to me, was one of my top 5 favorite comics ever. He was up there to me with Patrice O'Neal. Sugar Bear was that good.
Yeah, he was funny.
He was better than funny. He was that good. And he used to do all the shows at Parkside and stuff. So he was hosting. They used to have Funny Money. The first half of the show used to be like the signups, and Josh Kosh. Shout out to Josh Kosh, Philadelphia's finest. And then the second half was like Sugar Bear with the real people.
Right.
And because of the way just the show had went, we got pushed on kind of to the real half. Not the amateur half. So the way Funny Money was that while you're on stage, they passing the bucket around and people putting the money in there.
Okay.
If you're funny, and if you're not, that's how you get paid. And that's what happened. She went on the first half, I believe, and just because of timing, I think that Sugar Bear wanted to bring me up. And yeah, man, I did my little 7-8 minutes, whatever it was, and I remember I had $61 in the bucket. $61, 60 of it my mother put there, but that dollar was a fan. You understand? That was a fan, and that's all I needed was that $1 got me going, and I never looked back.
Tell us about the first time you ever bombed at a show.
Oh my dear God! And the guy who made sure I knew I bombed was Chicago's finest. What's my man name? Ray Grady.
Are you serious?
Ray Grady. Shout out to the great Ray Grady, great comic. You never know you bomb until, afterwards. They at the let out. They'll let you know at the let out. I was like, next time, baby, you got them next time, okay? You keep doing it though. I'm like, oh. And I bombed because it was a Helium, and early on, probably a year or 2 years and whatever, I was so confident. I remember being so confident about, you start learning the structure of being on stage where people laughs per minute, people need to be laughing, stage where people laughs per minute, people need to be laughing. People really only remember your first joke and your last joke. As a comic, until you become a name, people remember you by your jokes. That's the comic that tell that joke. And so people got to be laughing in the first 30 seconds on stage. And people need to be laughing in the last 10 seconds on stage. Like, you got to open strong and close strong because they only going to remember that. So I had this opening joke that was like, in my head, This thing right here, this the one.
Right.
And it had been the one. And that's actually why I stopped doing that joke about you so much. Because when I used to do the jokes about you when I first started, they was crushing because he was coming to every show. And when the person is there for reference and he's laughing loud, that's contagious. It was always crushing. And I never forget the first place I did that joke about you and they was like, and I was like, that's getting retired. Never again. You never want to hear a nigga cough at a comedy show. If it's silent enough to hear a cough, you're not doing well. And they coughed at that, and I didn't know, that was early on where I didn't know how to pivot. That was some of the best advice that I got. I think it was a comedian named Lawrence Owens. I'm just dropping all the names, but Lawrence Owens is another comic that I believe had given me the advice of learn to be comfortable in silence on stage, because I naturally talk fast, right? And I used to think, other comics used to tell me to slow down so much that, you know, they used to make me think it was like this crutch. And slow down on stage, slow down when you talk. And until I started meeting comics that spoke fast, but they spoke with purpose. And he taught me how to be comfortable in the silence, because early on when I would do a joke and it didn't go well, I didn't know how to pivot. You know what I mean? And he used to say, you know, you rush your jokes out. Because I only had so much time on stage, he sat me down and used to be like, you know, people, they buy their ticket, right, ahead of time. They wait, they pick out their outfit, they take a shower, they get dressed, they drive to the place, they stand in line, they get seated, they might get food, go to dinner first, they sit right here, and then for you to get up there and go that fast, like, slow down. And he taught me how to be comfortable in the silence, where silence in itself, something has to fill that silence. Either a laughter will, a cough will, or just something. And I used to be so uncomfortable with that. And so when I stopped doing that joke because of that, but in that bomb, and I remember being at Helium that day, I was like so confident about this joke. And it had been killing in the black rooms. Another mistake. Make sure you know your material is universal. You in there like, make some noise if you got roaches. They're like, we all have 401ks. They don't have roaches where they come from. And it was one of them type of things. I went out there to do, you know, and the thing was, because comedy is timing too, you know, because that's why a lot of jazz is like, a lot of old comics would have jazz in the background because of all those different beats and the timing of it. Because comedy is timing, my bits were timed. Okay. So I would time my next bit based on the come down of the laughter. Okay. If there's no laughter, I'm like, oh my God, it's going down.
You're like thrown off.
I'm mad discombobulated. Yeah. And I came out and I did the joke and hit the punchline. And heard that cough, and I was like, oh dear God, that's Jason Bourne. That's Jason Bourne right there. And I didn't know where to go. And it was this. It was silent for a second. I was like, yeah, so make some noise if you got a face. When comics start asking you to make some noise for any little conspicuous thing, and then make some noise if you got a nose. If you believe in God, make some noise. They're stalling for time trying to find something. Like, make some noise if you've ever ate food. You ate food, ma'am? Did you eat food? What was the food like that you ate? We just searching for something. I did that, and that wasn't going nowhere. And I think I tried to like fluff my way to like my closing bit. That was like at that time something about the boys or something. And right. But by then I had lost them. And so I got off stage, and I learned so much this night, because this night also showed me, this before I started hosting like I am. I'm one of the best hosts in the business, by the way, but humbly. But this was the night that I was like, I'll never do that, because Ray Grady got up there. Shout out to him. And I love Ray Grady still to this day. He got up there and he eviscerated me. His whole bit, and I get it, as comics, we're gonna find something, right. Like, you know what I mean? Right. And he got up there, and his whole next bit in between bringing, who else was on that show was it was me, Ray Grady, and Chris Spencer. Chris Spencer, man, shout out to Chris Spencer. And he was headlining. Before he brought Chris out, he did about a 5 to 6, 7 minute bit on my bombing. And I had to sit there and take it all. And I remember saying, if I ever get an opportunity to do that, I would never do that to someone if they don't do well.
And you did that?
I have never, but that was my experience. And I'm not saying that he was wrong for doing it, because it's fair game. Right. But I was so embarrassed but it was a teachable moment, because I was like, that'll never happen again. You know, and that's never happened again. I've done, like, the guy came up and got the microphone, but I've never really had those moments.
Okay. How do you balance being one of the faces of the Islamic community as it relates to comedy, and who you are as a whole, and how silly you are? Like, how do you balance that?
that's tough. You know, just trying the duality that exists between Moses and Musa and being in, you know, those communities, and really just also still being a representation of Abi and, you know, and I thought about that recently, even about Abi, you know what I mean, really in those worlds, because in some ways it's like I am him now, you know, in certain of those circles where I'm just carrying that legacy on, and
pretty much all of them,
you know, and so that duality that exists with that's a part of my identity too, you know, where and then sometime where it cross over where I might bring that world into there where this stuff happens, where, like I said, the N-word or what would happen. So I think it's the complexities of that, but it's just, again, me being cognizant and aware of, I'm always aware of, I'm a representation of something bigger than me. You know, just being a black man, first and foremost, you know, shout out to Bashir Jones, a former councilman Bashir Jones, because, you know, he talked about this term triple consciousness, right? Which was a derivative of talking about the term from WED of double consciousness, of that, you know, we're always, this as black people, conscious of the fact that you're a black man or you're a black woman. That's always in the back of our mind, no matter what situation you're in, you know, I'm a black man or I'm a black woman.
And people see you that way.
They see you that way. But how we start to identify ourselves by people seeing us that way. That's what he was talking about.
Got you.
So the idea of triple consciousness is that, like, I'm always aware that, like, I'm a black Muslim man. You know I'm always wearing those sorts of, no matter what room I go into, I know I'm judged based on that. You know, I conduct myself based on that because I'm a representation of something bigger. Just like Muslim women, I feel like, are the visual representations of Islam. So there's a responsibility even more in that, and the hijab and different things that's powerful. So even me being a man, when I go into places, maybe a Muslim, I'm always aware of that, even more so, I think, than my race or my gender. You know, it's like, how am I going to be perceived as being Muslim here? Even when I go places and it's like the Philly beard, like it's just associated with being, and I travel internationally and people will know, like, even in Philadelphia internationally is known as Little Mecca. People literally refer to Philadelphia as Little Mecca because
the Muslim population
it's
is
such
so
a strong,
huge.
over 300,000 Muslims. It's such a big population of Muslims, and the Muslims are so integrated into the fabric of the city,
right,
where you have to, in some way, do Muslim, you know, some of the biggest labor leaders and politicians.
I was just going to say, because some of the leaders of the actual city are Muslim, or the
ones behind the scenes moving the needle. You know, they Muslim. So that's what I'm saying. Come on over. The water's fine.
Yeah. Who's your comedic hero and why?
Martin Lawrence.
Why?
They may not remember this, but that's interesting. Let me give you some flowers then, because that moment with Naj, I have moments in my life that were pivotal moments that I think back to. Is like when you think back on the trajectory of your life, certain pivotal moments and moments that you knew altered your path. You could think back to a moment where you decided to do a thing and you're like, if I decided not to do that thing, whatever came of that, you know, if you did the other thing, your path would have been altered. Yeah. And so good and bad. And, you know, so there's moments like that where I've had those moments where it's like, man, my life will be changed from this. And it was in 1994.
Moving here was that moment. Like, if I sometimes think about if I didn't move here, not only where would I be, honestly, like where would me and Celeste be had we not moved here?
I'm really just surprised Celeste stayed with you this long. I really wanted Celeste before him. I don't know if she ever knew that, and we just, because we're gonna ball bombshells out here, and I don't know why, but you know, she chose him, and I'm happy for y'all. But that's the best thing that ever happened to you.
Let's go with your point that you was making.
The best thing that ever happened to you, and he didn't cash at me $20 to say that, and it was 10 short. I need that other 10. Love you, boo. What was my moment?
You was talking about 1994.
Oh, in 1994, my life changed trajectory. You know why? Because this man right here took me someplace I shouldn't have been. You know where you took me? To see You So Crazy. In 1994, my big brother took me to see You So Crazy, the comedy special. And that special changed my life. To this day, You So Crazy is single-handedly the catalyst for me wanting to be a comedian. And so much so that I'll watch that back as, if you watch me, so many of my mannerisms, I used to watch that as like my blueprint that's how to be funny. Like Martin Lawrence, you know, I don't think he gets enough flowers, but it's like, that's how to be funny. And You So Crazy was one of those, just his timing, his delivery, the way he would, his callbacks, he was so animated. And that's why even in this past, show I just did this past weekend, that 25 minutes of straight fire, you can Google it, humbly. That 25 minutes of straight fire, what was so special about it for me is because that was in a room, over 400 people in the room, but a lot of the material was specific to the people in that room. So to be able in the moment. And so to be able to do jokes about people that contextually only other people that know those people are going to know, that it's the performance of it that makes it funny. And when I was watching those clips back, that's what I pay attention to, the nuance of the performance, the gestures and the things that now will become bits now that improv will then become actual bits, the ones that worked. But I watched Martin do that and You So Crazy. And I after I saw that, I was like, I'm going to do that. That was the first time me being like, I want to elicit. I watched those crowd shots and like whatever he's doing, I want to make people do that, feel that way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, talk about that, B, our father, how we were raised, his impact on us all and his legacy in our community.
Shout out to Ayub Suleiman. May Allah be pleased with him, Rahimullah. May Allah make his grave spacious and full of light.
Ameen.
Ameen. Grant him with Jannatul Firdaus. The biggest thing that I think Abi did that, that Allah grant him paradise is that he planted those seeds in us, that the fact that we're still Muslim. That's how I feel. The fact that I'm still Muslim, first off, that Allah loved me enough that I'm still Muslim, but as a testament to that, you can raise righteous children that can still be intercessors for you. And Allah says there's so many different intercessors between us and God. He said you can reach God through your kids, through your service, through charity, through your spouse. So that's just one vessel, and so our parents, that's a major vessel, and things that I'm realizing now. And I was just telling somebody earlier of going through treasure trove of things that I found when I was doing these renovations at the house of Abi's possessions. And I'm putting together all this little thing for my siblings because it's a lot of, memorabilia and stuff that I found in there. But some of the stuff that I found in there, it blew my muffin cap off because it gave me a whole different perspective of Abi. There were mint condition certificates in there from when he was still in prison of classes that he was taking, just preparing himself to come back home to us. Parenting classes, life skills classes, accounting, time management, anger management, like mint condition certificates from real programs that he had been going through, and it's like those are lenses that you don't get a chance to see things from. And so as I've gotten older and I'm able to appreciate so much more of who Abi was, even with his flaws, I'm able to see him from different lenses. So yeah, our dad, man, was like a no nonsense military guy, but what he instilled in us most is he was and mommy says this about Abi, that his biggest trait was that he always make a way out of no way. My dad was like, if it needed to be done, he would do it, and you didn't have to ask him to do it. He would just do it. And I think he instilled that in all his boys, where we just, if it need to be done, it's gonna get done, and it don't matter. I'm the type of person, it don't matter if the floor need to be mopped, or a joke need to be told. I'm gonna do it to feed my family.
And there's no telling how what we will do to get it done.
Listen.
You're right. And since you brought up mommy, talk about her sacrifices she made for us.
My mother, first off, shout out to my mom. My mom had me when she was 35. That's first and foremost. Because I want to tell this story. I know you ain't supposed to tell a woman's age, but I got to tell this story to explain how dynamic my mother was. I gave her flowers at the show in Philly.
Was she there?
Yeah, she was there.
Okay.
And shout out to Auntie when she watches this, because I'll be moving so fast. My Aunt Tahira was sitting next to her, and it wasn't intentional, but I was just moving and grooving, and I forgot to give flowers to my beloved Aunt Tahira, who is our second mother, and she is a woman that has been so influential in my life. So this is for you, Aunt Tahira. Okay, I love you, boo. But my mom had me when she was 35 years old, right? And went back to college, in her 40s. And that was dynamic for me, because I'm just like, that just taught me it's never too late, to get an education. And you're talking about a woman who they've sacrificed, particularly her, but all of our parents, but like they sacrificed so much for the benefit of us. Mommy, when we was on Umrah, and that Allah wrote a moment for me to be able to, make that trip, with mommy. And on that trip, mommy said that she knows her next big milestone in life is death. That's a heavy line.
That is. She said that when we had
that's my mom's, constant line is that her next big milestone in life is death. So, when you get to that age where that's prevalent and you understand that, is that the sacrifices that they've made is like there's more years behind her than in front of her. So, and being aware of that, but then also our responsibility is recognizing. That's why I'm like, my mother is just the best of everything in us. And she, every dime, every dollar, every cent, every breath, in my regard belongs to her, because she's just sacrificed so much. She started having kids in her 20s and, and she had 6 children, and she spent her life raising us, and that we're all, alhamdulillah, look at us. We all successful, and we all got our wits about us. And so my mom is a dynamic woman, and I just think our parents, we really, once you take the lens back now, and it's like all the little things that we used to just complain about, is just like, man, I work with kids, I done do, and that's a whole nother thing. But this career that I've had, I done taught university classes, and I done so much and seen so much and traveled the world and seen families and people that are displaced from the things that we just have. That we
just was talking about this.
We
was just talking about,
and our kids too. It's like we even in Islam, when I talk about how we really I use that as the metaphor for currency, because it's like we inherited Islam. We didn't earn it.
Right.
Our parents and, all the pioneers of Islam that really established it, the Black Muslims, that's why I taught that class on Black Muslim history, because the Black Muslim contribution to the landscape of Islam is very important. And so when you talk about, our parents establishing Islam in America, and then us second generation, we born into it, right? It's like being born into money. You don't have the same reverence for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why we struggle with our Islam so much, where our parents is like at B and the mommy, they die hard. If we was with our dad and Salat come in and you on the L, you get your wudu and call the adhan. You about to make Salat on the L. On the platform, no matter where you just being there. He going down in the Sijda and Ruku, you trying to act like you looking for change because people looking. We've been through it all. It was rough being Muslim in the 90s.
Yeah, we didn't play. We prayed any and everywhere.
Listen here.
Any and everywhere. I remember I'd be going with us to one of the little carnival things way out in the Northeast, and and we stopped what we was doing, playing and carnivaling, to pray.
Yeah, to pray.
And it was crazy. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy then as a child, like, because you didn't understand. But when you think about it now and the way it works, it's not. But
those disciplines, what I respect about it, again, it just taught me those disciplines, and not necessarily whatever you apply the discipline to, right? Is that, he was so disciplined about a thing, and from a generation where that they didn't have nothing. You talking about they coming up in the 40s and the 50s where you one of 10 kids, where it's like you just get in where you fit in. You got probably a 9th grade education. You know what I mean? The statistics against you, where your IB went from one of 10 kids to the gangs to Vietnam.
Right.
You know what I mean? In Vietnam, where that's a whole nother chapter for, honorable discharge in Vietnam in 1969, and there wasn't services like it was for veterans today then, so there wasn't nothing to do but rob, and so he had a beautiful bank robbing career. He was one of the best. They make a movie about him. The man broke out of prison. If we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it. The man broke. Shawshank Redemption was really based on my father. Yeah. Okay, he did all of that. Scaled the building, naked, the whole 9 yards. The rope broke. He broke his ankle. Ask my mom about it. Google it. Yeah. Okay, we've been in the game. We've been in the game.
These are all true stories. And every time he came home, one of us was born.
Yeah.
Or our mother got pregnant. As you would imagine, when someone breaks out of jail, the first thing they want to do.
Until I came along, and then what happened? He cleaned up his life, and my mom stopped having children. I was the great savior of my family. He never robbed another bank again after I came.
Moving along. If there was a movie ever made about our family, who plays who? If there was a comedy drama,
I think I'm a Eddie Murphy this thing and play every damn body. I got to be Mama. I got to be Fatine. Hercules. I guess let's get Rick Baker in here and just put me in Moo Moo and everything. I got to play all of y'all.
So you're going to play all of us.
I got to. It's only right. And for the love scenes and everything, I got to do it all. Shout out to Celeste.
I like to think of myself as the Charlie Murphy of our family.
You are the Charlie Murphy
of all the families. How badly do you, when you be venting to me, how badly do you just want to unleash me to fuck these people up?
Let me tell y'all something that a lot in the Muslim community and any of my fans that watch this, and I say things very humbly. Lately, I have been being very much, because I do know my greatness, and I do know the talent that I'm grateful for that Allah has given me. But man, this guy right here, I can unleash him This dude right here and it's really a testament to I'm all about the preservation of relationships. You've been able to do so much because of the relationships that you have. You know what I mean? And you're very intentional about that. And people love you because of your loyalties and because you're just a genuinely good person. And Mustafa's one of them type of people, man, that he don't play about us. You know, when he be at, that's why a lot of times I don't want him to come to shows, because if you in the front row, if he had been at that show with Ray, I'd have whooped your ass, man. Ray. I would have whooped your ass. And I wouldn't have wanted that Ray. But I'm just saying, this guy, man, he's definitely that one in the family that, you know we can always call you, where it's just on go. It's no questions. It's what it is. But how is it being that? Sometimes, again, and back to that Joey question too, because what I've noticed is I've become, even though I'm the youngest, I'm that one in the family that I put all the fires out. I'm always the one handling all the the diplomacy and, and curating the things in the family, keeping everybody, trying to keep everybody on an accord. But sometimes that's tiresome. You know what I mean? And so sometimes even playing those roles, a lot of times it's like, we got to make space for ourselves. I was saying at this conference when she asked me one of the things, an example of a time where I create joy for myself. And I said, when I was on my way to that very event, when I walked downstairs, I had decided, am I going to drive over there? The drive said 4 minutes or the Uber, I could have Ubered and it said 4 minutes, but the walk was 10 minutes. And I decided to walk because that walk, I was able to listen to my music. That walk was for me. It brought me joy. Just that walk, that moment. And y'all see the memes about like people when you're in the car and you eating your fries in the car because you don't want to go in and share with your wife and kids or whatever. It's like sometimes just us creating and curating those spaces is important, because when you wear those roles all the time and those masks, that can become tedious too.
So for me, to answer your question, I enjoy that role of our family, whether it's our blood family or our extended family, because I'm like that with our wives and our children, nieces and nephews. I enjoy it. This is what I don't enjoy. This is what frustrates me. And I've had this conversation with Celeste. I've had it with Lene. I don't enjoy the moments of when y'all kind of getting on me for doing it. It's like y'all cool with it when it's in y'all benefit, but when y'all are trying to correct me, it's like, Mustafa, you really
can't unleash the Hawk, because it's like once he goes from Bruce Banner into the Hawk, he's like, don't try to bring me down now.
And that's what I don't like. But at the expense and at the protection and at the responsibility and at the overall decorum of protecting y'all, I absolutely love that role, and I love it to the point of, as much as I, not to try to play nobody, and Celeste kind of is like this running, it's actually not a joke when we kind of have others like, well, I'm not scared of you. I'm not those people. I love thinking or even knowing that those people are in fact scared of me, to the point of like, don't fuck with my family, or you will like, I will either hurt you really, really badly, or you're going to hurt me in my efforts of hurting you. And so like, I overwhelmingly enjoy that role. I also enjoy that role of being that person that I'm always going to say what someone is thinking. Like, Bo and I have been having this nice rapport, and he enjoys when I'm going off on these rants about things that like kind of get me going. I like to be able to speak in my truth, whether my truth is at my expense of, maybe embarrassing myself, or like telling something about myself that is like, I probably shouldn't have told somebody, or just speaking in my truth of like, I know people feel this way about this thing, or about this incident, or about this moment, and I'm going to speak on it. And I really don't care how uncomfortable I make that person.
Well, sometimes I just think, and we talk about this all the time, I just think that's important too, to be that and unapologetic, but we don't want to be it to a fault. And one of the things that I always, that when me and you talk about that out, it's like the saying, you catch more bees with honey than vinegar. And there's times where you have to bring levity to being able to, make sure people not gonna mess with you, and you got those sorts of decorums. But also on the other side of like, get the rooms that we talk about that we want to get into as you build your platform.
You can't be that.
It's way. Like you sometimes, you know what I mean, as you trying to, you got to have a level of diplomacy too, because then you don't want to just, you'll talk yourself out those rooms before you even get into them. Because again, the accusation is enough. And so you have to, I think we don't want to be to a fault where it's fine with letting people know in this industry, there's certain organizations that don't work with me because they know my price is my price and I do real business. And so, and that's fine. And there with the biggest advice that I ever got in anything was like, sometimes you got to say no to get a yes. You know what I mean? And I've told you that before. It's like, sometimes you got to say no to get a yes.
Something that you just said made me just reference something that Fat Joe just said recently on his podcast. Fat Joe talked about one day he was at this event and he beat the shit out of somebody who ended up being a high level person at the radio station. At Hot 97. He didn't know that at the time, but he beat this dude up and it affected him being able to get his music played for a few years on the radio station because he beat this dude up. And so like it kind of speaks to what you're saying, like sometimes, me having to be mindful of, my whatever that I don't
because now that you're building these platforms, that those start to become a parts of the filters that then dictate your actions, because it's more before when we was just, when we just got sitting on the couch, you move how you moving. But now when you represent something bigger than you, right? Like when you go to represent a brand or a company at a job or when you building your own platforms like this, is that becomes a part of the filter now. And it's like when you arguing with somebody that they don't even have a platform like you. There's like certain things is like, what would be the purpose? An example of this, I remember when we some years back for New Year's, we went down to a Kindred show in DC, and they was doing a New Year's show, and I was with Imam Idris and his family, and I'm talking about we suited and booted. I got on an Italian, this Milanin, the mink fur mink. We suited and booted, bro, and we leave this joint and we hungry. And so we Google it. Mind you, we staying at the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton. We done splurged on the room. We went in. I had like a little employee discount code. Yeah, the ladies ain't know that, but still, it was discounted. And we had a great time. After the thing, man, we go to get some food. And the only thing that had been open, now mind you, the Ritz or wherever we were staying, 24-hour room service. But we leave this event, this ball, if you will, and we hungry, and the only place open is some IHOP down in the hood. And we go in there, and we the Fedora, we the whole nine, the Chelseas and everything, and we in there. And long story short, we wound up getting into it with some guys in there. The imam, we in there and our families and and it almost turned into a big fight and the cops or whatever. And so later when we were debriefing about it, because what happened was we left that event, wound up not getting the food. Hey, this happened while we were just waiting in the vestibule, and wound up going back to the hotel to just order room service after all. And the lesson in it was just that we had no business even being there, because as you start now, the filters of the platform start to become of like, yeah, it's more that's bigger than you now. We ain't had no business even at that time of night in those sorts of environments. So now when you have those moments where you want to knock somebody's head off or you go crazy because you only got a small piece of the story, it's shoot down, ask questions later. It's like, well, wait a minute now. What about exposure runs? You know what I mean? Wait a minute now. What about these other platforms and things? And so I think that starts to become, that's important that you recognize that.
Okay. All right, fair enough. All right, with these last few minutes that we got, I'm going to jump into some sports questions here.
Oh, God. Just let it be known, I don't know a thing about sports, okay? I'm not that one in the family. They got the sport. My sons are sports guys. I have no idea how my sons have become sports guys. I don't know a thing about it.
Okay.
They'd be like, Dad, you going to watch the game tonight? I'm like, which one, son? I don't know which, is it football?
So my first question, what is a basketball?
Your head probably is the first thing that comes to mind. Have y'all seen him hatless? A basketball. I know what a basketball is. Okay, I don't know what it's made out of. If that's what you're asking.
No.
Okay, yeah, it's a basketball.
What color is it?
Orange.
Okay, all right. How many basketball games have you attended and actually watched?
I've sat on the floor at basketball games, okay? Shout out to one of my good friends, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf.
Yeah.
Okay, basketball player, the whole 9 yards. I've sat on the floor at games.
One of the best basketball, but you didn't know his basketball acronym.
I'm telling him one day, years ago, like I'm with some guy, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. He's like, just the greatest day of my life. I had Mahmoud call him and everything.
Yes, you did. It was one of the best days
So I've been to basketball games, though. I have gone to games.
When are you able to follow? Do you know what's going on?
Yes.
Okay.
Now I like basketball more than football, so I will watch basketball.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Who's Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan. Well, I loved Creed 1 and 2.
Not
Creed
Michael
3.
Not Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, okay.
Michael Jordan.
Okay, Michael V. Jordan, not B. Jordan.
Yeah,
V. Jordan.
Yeah, Michael V. Jordan.
Okay, that's the greatest of all time, Air Jordan. I've never in my life owned a pair of Jordans.
Never.
I've never even had a pair of Jordans on my feet. That's one of the things I was like, one day that maybe to be a content video I'm gonna do. Maybe I won't buy a pair. If someone out there wants to gift me a pair, I've been in the countries where they make them. I've seen the little Guatemalan thumbs stitching. I can't bring myself, Jordan. You should be ashamed of yourself. I wear a size 11. Anyone out there that's willing to sponsor a pair. I've never owned a pair of Jordans.
I never knew that.
Never in my life.
Okay.
But I know I met Michael Jordan in an elevator.
I remember.
For All-Star Weekend
I remember.
in Vegas or something like that.
And he used to also be the president of the label that 15 Asia was on.
He was.
Right,
Yeah.
Of Hidden Beach Records.
Yeah. So come on, I know this stuff.
Okay. Who's LeBron James?
LeBron James. Was that LeBron James? LeBron James. That's the LeBron James.
Who he play for?
He played for Cleveland Cavaliers, and I think he won a few championships with them, if you will. Googled all this before I came because I knew you'd do this. He went to the Lakers. I believe, I don't know what his number was. He opened up a school. He has a receding hairline, a beautiful family and wife. Okay. I know a lot about the man.
Who is Xavier Suleiman?
Xavier Suleiman. Is that number 5? Is he number 5? What's his number? 35. Number 3. Oh, he's number 3. I was going to take 2 from that. That's my nephew. He's a fabulous. Xavier is the best of you both. Is he here? Is he listening to this?
He might be at home listening.
Yeah. No, seriously. I was telling somebody recently about just the kids in our family, man. They really good kids.
Yeah, they are.
You know what I mean?
Really
and our kids have been so sheltered from the world.
They have.
I call them cocoa butter hands, but they, I love the fact that my kids are still like nerds. And still, like, Ayub still gets excited about, like, light up Spider-Man. He tries to act like it's not, but when somebody go past with light up Spider-Man, he'd be like, look at those. I like that. So,
What position does Xavier play?
Xavier is a power forward. I think he's a quarterback. Don't quote me.
What's his zone?
Is he a power forward?
No, he's a guard.
He's a guard.
Okay. What's his zone defense?
A zone defense is, first and foremost, is when they defend the zones.
What's man-to-man defense?
A man-to-man defense sounds like something on Pornhub. I don't want to know what that is.
What is a three-pointer and how many points do you get for it?
A three-pointer is a 3, and it comes from the outer line around the basketball. There's an inner line, and then there's an outer line, and that's the three-pointer. And if you make it from there, now, but if steps over in the air, it's not.
Right.
It can be a 2-pointer.
It could be a 2-pointer.
Okay.
How many points do you get for a free throw?
A free throw is going to be 1 point.
Excellent.
A free throw is going to be 1 point.
How many points is a dunk worth?
Now, if you already made the 2, the and 1, you just get 1 free throw.
Talk about it.
Okay.
Come on, King.
Okay. How many points is a dunk worth?
A dunk is going to be 2.
Okay.
That's going to be 2 points.
Okay.
And I know a goal 10, if it's going to go in and you hit it, then you get those points as well. Correct? Okay. I told you basketball, and then the football ones I can't answer.
We're not even going to do football. What's a technical foul?
A technical foul is a foul technically.
We're going to move on.
It's a foul technically.
Okay.
It's some sort of foul that dictates. It sounds like a serious foul. It may not be a regular foul. Technical foul is like you've done something bad.
Yes.
That's not a regular shove. Like you kicked a nigga in the nuts or something.
Okay,
That's a technical. That's a technical.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Who's the GOAT? LeBron or Jordan or someone else?
LeBron, Jordan, or someone else. Basketball wise, I've been told to believe that I graduated from Overbrook High School, and I've been told to believe that Wilt Chamberlain can be into some of these conversations. I mean, that's one of his alma maters.
That's true.
The Bill Russells of the world, I've heard.
Okay.
That some of the arguments.
Okay.
The Magic Johnsons of the world.
Oh, you throwing names
the
about
Larry Birds of the world.
You showing off.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying, if you want me to keep going, I can keep going. Let me see. The John Stocktons of the world.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Those sound good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So between Jordan and LeBron, I would say just cultural relevance. I guess Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Jordan. Because I love Space Jam growing up. That was one of my. I like that.
Okay. I posted a link earlier to our one-on-one game from 11 years ago, which I won handedly, by the way.
Did you handedly?
Handedly.
That's a strong term. Yeah. I don't know handedly.
Yeah, people can go. I posted the link.
What was the score?
It was like 18-9.
Okay.
Yeah, I won it handily.
Yeah, but here's the thing about it.
And I was almost 300 pounds
It
heavier.
depends on what lens you see it from, because as a person who we've clearly just gone through an exercise where I don't have any sport accoutrement, if you will. But I had 9 points on you. So if I played Jordan, I probably would have had none.
So what you're saying is you actually won.
In essence, I think I won.
Perspective is everything.
And you know what I mean? Because it's like if you're supposed to be showing me up type thing. Like I came into your world, your arena, from what I remember from that event.
Yes.
And I had 9 points. I think it was actually 12. I'm gonna watch that.
No, it was 9.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want a rematch?
Ooh. That's good content right there.
That is good content.
That's good content right there. I definitely need a Tiger Balm bath, some Epsom salt. The rematch would actually, yes. Yeah, we can, let's set a rematch up.
And let's do it. Who would you compare yourself to as a player?
Did Chris Farley ever play basketball?
No.
Okay.
That is tough.
Whoever is probably very uncoordinated and his like the jersey is always sloppy, is never tucked in. Because I'm also a guy in the family. I don't care about like fashions and labels. Like I'll shop at Kmart and have on the Bobos. I don't care. So whoever the guy's on that guy, that's me. I'm just happy to be on the team. Like, can I get one of the rings?
Yes, if you're on the team.
That's fine.
Okay.
Y'all make fun of the guys that's on the team and just riding the bench, and I'm happy with that guy because he's going to all the events. His name is still on the list, and he has a ring. Okay, and all the byproducts he gets. I'm fine with that.
All right, name your all-time NBA team.
My all-time NBA team. 5 players. I'm gonna put Jordan on there just because. Okay. I need a big man on there. I need a big man, so I'm gonna go Shaq. You know what? I like Shaq.
Okay.
I like Shaq as a person.
Oh yeah, Shaq is
You know what I mean? I really like Shaq as a person, so I'm gonna put Shaq on there.
That's 2.
That's 2. I'm gonna go Stephen Curry only because it would give me some brownie points with my son.
Okay, 3.
Because that's his favorite player.
Okay.
The light skin. That's like Chris Brown in a basketball uniform.
Yes.
So Steph Curry.
That's 3.
That's 3?
That's 3.
Okay. I feel like I need I don't know what that was. Someone that shuffles on the court. That big tooth guy that has like his teeth looks like chiclets. He seems like a big guy, a nice guy. He's a dark guy. He has a very big forehead. I think he's on the Washington Wizards as well. He's very angry. He's always getting in trouble.
Green.
What is his name? Draymond Green.
Okay, that's 4.
Yeah, Draymond Green.
I'm thinking maybe KD as well.
No, that's him. Yeah, the big teeth.
Okay,
That's him.
that's
okay,
4.
That's 4.
One more.
One more person. I'm gonna go Lisa Leslie because we're gonna need a female on the road. Because they say a Muslim man single till he has all 4 slots filled. So we're gonna need some females there.
Okay, all right. So my 5 is AI, Kobe. You forgot Kobe. Jordan, LeBron,
AI.
and Hakeem Olajuwon.
Jordan, LeBron, and Hakeem. Tell me about Hakeem Olajuwon.
He played for the Houston Rockets.
I mean, he's a special dynamic guy.
He definitely was. He was the Muslim center that always fasted during the month of Ramadan. I thought you would.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, who's the other guy, the tall guy that's always loving with Shaq? That's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, yeah, Kareem.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a big man. I like him.
Yes.
He's been in karate movies and everything.
Yes, that is
okay.
correct.
Now I might know him from other things that they've done. You know what I mean? Some of them was in like Mike, all types of these players. Okay.
All right. Last 2 questions. Of course, in Islam, it said we pick our parents. I'll talk about you picking Umi and Abby as a parent and what they mean to you and us as the family as a whole. Like what they mean to our family.
I think mommy probably just brought that, the nurture. Mommy, me and mommy, she just texted me the other day. We used to have this thing that we used to do when I used to leave. She used to say Sabahu Kaida. I would say Sabahu Nur. It's almost like, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it was, like a little thing. So mommy was always just that for me. Mommy is the one that first introduced me really to novels, reading books. Mm-hmm. And because of that, because she forced me to read like big books.
James Patterson.
James Patterson, yeah. Iris Johansson. I used to read those books. Mm-hmm. It gave me a love of literature, which then gave me a love of just words, and those books, because I feed myself with. So I'm the guy that when I walk out the theater, I'm right online Googling about the movie because I want to read everything. I'm on Wikipedia. I want to know like who made that car in the background. It's like, why are they eating that cereal?
I do that with those movies that are like true stories. I'm in a rabbit hole.
Yeah. So I think mommy really kind of gave me that because mommy loves words. She loves Scrabble. Mm-hmm. We grew up playing Scrabble and checkers with my dad. And I think at B really that discipline that he gave me just to applying that to so many different areas of my life as well, and really just like I said, planting that seed, that spark that of Islam really in my heart too. So I'm glad if we chose them, if that's because we ain't gonna know till we all know, we all just follow, because that's what's crazy about religion. It's like we just going off of what we based and believe in our heart. Nobody know until you know.
Right.
So based on what I believe, if I chose them, then I think it was for those reasons. I think we're all good balances of at being Umi. But the important part about it is that the things that are not to circumvent away from, we don't always have to just be the things that aren't good about a person. You always just think you got to be that.
Right. You could take what you didn't like. And,
yeah. You know what I mean? And it's that and I'm paraphrasing, but one of the old like adages, sayings about like the two brothers, and their dad was an alcoholic and an abuser and this and the third. And just like one grew up to be a successful guy and one grew up to be an alcoholic and an abuser. And when they asked them both, they both was like, because of my dad. You know what I mean? So I think that's just an example of, it's your choice as well. It's times where I'm like, oh man, I wish my dad would have like took me to the park and played with me. So I'm like, okay, I could be woe is me, or I'm like, let me take my son to the park because I wanted it. So I think that even in the flaws of our parents, it's helped me be a better man.
For the specifically, IB gave me a lot of great qualities, but some of the qualities that I try to give Xavier and Zayden is some of the qualities that I wish IB would have had. And I was lucky enough before IB died to have that conversation with him, to let him know how I felt in regards to not receiving that from him. Letting him know, like, it was a conversation like, yo, I know that you do love me. Your actions show that, you put a roof over my head, you put clothes on my back, you feed me, but you've never told me. You've never physically told me that you love me.
Yeah, we used to always say that, but like you if you grew up in just black Muslim dad, it's like you knew he loved you because he did for you, not because he told you.
Right.
You rarely to hear that. I probably can count on my hands the time I physically heard that, but you knew he did.
Yeah, you knew he did.
Now, as a parent, I knew he did because of the sacrifices that he made.
Right. But those same sacrifices for me now I try to always match them with words when I'm talking to the boys. I try to tell them every day, Ziggy comes down before bed, or, when I'm talking to, now Zay knows that emotional side of me. He kind of has, not so much he's never accepted it, but now it's a thing now where when he's leaving, like, all right, come give me my talk and my hug and I like that he has allow that relationship between us to kind of blossom. And I'm unapologetic about that, because I want them to know, if I die, when I die, I don't want them to ever, carry on in life wondering if I did love them. I want them to know that I do.
Hey man, look, my big brothers, they've been motivators to me. Seriously, y'all just as the men and fathers that y'all are, been motivating to me as well, just in times where I'm call you on the phone, just for that advice of how to deal with, we all, there ain't no grand blueprint. But I've always appreciated that about Abid, that he raised real men. At the very least, can't nobody say we don't take care of our kids and our families. That's like the bane of our existence. So I'm very proud that I had big brothers that were just very influential in shaping the type of man and father that I am too.
I appreciate that. Last question or last statement is that I want you to send a message to your future self talking in third person.
I used to leave little letters and notes, write little stuff to myself from back in the day, like what was going on at that time. Is why I need to find some of them time capsules. But future self, man, you know what? It's interesting. I was humbled recently from Sister Jamila, Imam Asim's widow, Rahimullah, and we were at Abid's his iftar that we did.
Okay.
Because my whole life I always had this narrative that I'm gonna make Hajj when I'm 40. That was always my thing as a kid, because you be thinking I'm gonna get all my stuff out the way and then I'm gonna make Hajj when I'm 40 and live my new life as a clean man. And that was always the narrative, right? And I made Umrah 3 times now. By Allah's mercy, I made Umrah 3 times. The first time I went on Umrah, I asked for Nora. Second time I went on Umrah, I had Nora. The second time I went on Umrah, I asked for mommy to go. Third time I went on Umrah, I was with mommy. So it was like how powerful that those prayers and things were, right? But when we came back, I told Sister Jamila, I'm about 2 years shy from 40, so that was always this road to 40 now, and I'm gonna make Umrah when I'm 40. And I told her that, and she grabbed my hand. She said, "Make it now." She said, "Don't wait till you're 40." The narrative was that first of all, I don't even know if I'm gonna be here when I'm 40, right? Just, everything that I've asked God for, then he's given to me. And once I change the narrative around when I'm gonna make it, I start asking God, I'm gonna make Hajj now. If the opportunity come, Allah provide an opportunity for me to be able to make Hajj right now. And if he does, I'm out. So I think the intentionality behind that, I don't even remember what your original question was, but just
sending yourself a future message.
Yeah, that future message to myself really was just, I guess in that, there's just the power of those du'as and manifesting those things is like, even now, and I'm so intentional about the knowledge behind the thing I want to do. It said this quote earlier, it's a hadith that says, a drop of rain can fall into the mouth of a seashell or the mouth of a snake. And that drop of rain in a seashell would turn into a pearl, and in a snake it could turn into poison. So it's like intention and knowledge in the wrong or right hands can be a blessing or a curse. So now my future self is really just, be very intentional about the things that you say you want to do, and don't just do them. Like, you got to go after them too. So whatever I am, when I'm on this platform, and I'm speaking it into existence, when the Exposure Runs platform is the premier, not just sports podcast, but the premier just culture, lifestyle podcast. And this is $1 million podcast. Y'all heard it here first in this hot basement Jeepers Creepers room right here. Okay. With this man back here, and y'all please hit this Cash App because it is very hot in here. Okay. I'm letting y'all know. Future me, y'all heard it here first.
Well, I appreciate you making a stop here while you were in town to come on to our platform. You've always been very supportive of us, and it's always good to see you. I love spending time with you. Like our banter and just our conversations behind the scenes, in front of the camera, whatever. It's always like it just really kind of refills my cup. So
Mustafa's that person that every big major milestone that has happened. Seriously, I'm talking about when my back has been against a wall, like bad stuff, right? I call Mustafa, because Mustafa is that person that no matter what it is, he's always gonna see through all of that to you first. That's what's, I think, very special about you. That's your gift. You're able to extrapolate all this, like looking at something, you're able to, blow all the dust away, which is the tedious things, and then see right to the authenticity of a person. And I think that's why, you have the sorts of relationships that you have, and you've had the sort of success that you've had, because you see that in people. And that's why it's like, we always know we can call you, and it's like, it's judgment free. You not, no matter what it is, you gonna make sure we good first. And so that's a special trait and skill. And just as this platform grows, just never lose sight of the authenticity of that, because I think that's what makes you unique. And in a sea of podcasts, that'll be what makes your voice dynamic.
I really appreciate that, man. I love you very much. I love our family, and I love that you took this opportunity to come up here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I hope y'all enjoyed me. Yeah. And this was live. Are they saying, what is the comment saying? Because all sorts of things is going down. There's a lot of people on here saying they want to take their shahadas.
Well, alhamdulillah.
There you go.
We see y'all on the next episode, y'all.